Hi, good morning. Dave Markham here. I wanted to talk with you a bit about this article that appeared in the July 3rd Suburban News under the byline of Christina Gabalski. It's an interesting little article here. It says, let's see if I can find it here. Study committee amends recommendation for misuse of term. Did you get that? Study committee amends their recommendation for misuse of term. I don't even know what that headline means, but I'll tell you what I think. What she's referring to is the Clarkson, Sweden Fire Protection District Study Committee. That's a little committee that in March of 2010, the towns of Sweden and Clarkson put together. They picked 5 people from each town. They left the village of Brockport out of it, even though Brockport owns all the equipment and gear and buildings and so forth. And they wanted to study how they could improve the operation of the fire and ambulance in their towns and in the village, I guess, even though they left the village out of it. And the people on that committee from Clarkson were Jim Gillette, Joe Indelicato, James Sobrin, Al Smith, and Bob Rajewski. Fine group of people, right? And then from Sweden was Mike Ferris, Deborah Finkel, who was the only woman. 1 out of 10 is a female. So this is kind of the old boys club. I don't know Deborah Finkel, but she's kind of the odd person out. Anyway, Doug Hickerson, Charles Sanford, and Harold Mundy. And they met there for several months, and then they come out with this report about their recommendation about how the fire department and the ambulance corps should be governed and managed. Actually, it wasn't a bad report. And basically what they recommended is that they continue with what's called a fire protection district. This is a district that villages operate in collaboration with their partners, usually a town that the village is in. Pretty standard stuff, right? The other option is to have a fire district, which has its own board of commissioners. They have the power to tax. They're another layer of government unto themselves. Now, here's the interesting thing. There's a very fundamental difference in New York State between a fire protection district and a fire district. This is basic stuff. And since the report came out and they recommended that Brockport, Sweden, and Clarkson continue with a fire protection district, but set up a committee to oversee the budgeting and financing and operation of this fire protection district. And they came up with 14 pros for their proposal and 2 cons. Now that's totally different than a fire district. Some people, like Paul Kimball, publicly, in the public forum with Attorney Ray Dorado, said they recommended a fire district. No, they didn't. Paul. They didn't recommend a fire district. They recommended that they continue with a fire protection district. Huge difference. It's a difference between a giraffe and an anteater. And it's basic stuff. Well, since the report came out, Tom Mangat on Examiner.com and myself, yours truly, on the Brockporter, have pointed out that there's a huge difference here between forming a fire district and continuing with the fire protection district, and that their own committee gave them 14 reasons why they ought to continue with the fire protection district. Now they're coming out in the Suburban News, this faceless, the committee says. Who's the committee? Well, it says 10 people. So whoever sent this letter to the Suburban News, are they speaking for the whole committee? Or is it only the chairman of the committee, who I believe was James Soberin? It doesn't say in the article who's changing their tune here. But all of a sudden they're saying, oh no, we made a mistake. We didn't mean a fire protection district. We meant a fire district. No, they didn't. If you read their report, which I did, and you can too if you go on some of the earlier articles on this blog, you'll see that they meant a fire protection district. In their 14 pros, they say things like, number one, the ambulance corps and the fire department would remain status quo. Well, they would under a fire protection district. They would not under a fire district. That'd be a whole different thing. Under number 4, they say this will not add another layer of government and another taxing authority. Well, no, not if they say a fire protection district, but if they become a fire district, hey, this is a whole other layer of government. There would be 5 commissioners who get elected every 5 years, and they have the power to levy taxes to pay for. So anyway, this whole article saying, well, we just made a little mistake. It was a slip of the tongue. It's a misunderstanding. We really meant fire district when we said fire protection district is absolute hogwash. Hogwash. If you read the report, all the things they reference in the report refer to the management of a fire protection district. Most of those things, the 14 pros, would not apply to a fire district. So I don't know who's kidding who here. You know, it's a sad day when people in your government are lying to you. And they know better now. They're claiming they didn't know better. They didn't know what they were doing. But now they've wised up and they realize that there's a difference between a fire district and a fire protection district. And they're so sorry. And so now they want to correct any misunderstanding. Well, that's absolute nonsense. These 10 people on this committee are smart people. If they didn't know the difference between a fire protection district and a fire district, God help us all. I think what they're doing is they are bending under political pressure from Supervisor Kimball and Supervisor Milner to change their story at this point in the game to say, oh no, they really want a fire district, not a fire protection district. Well, you know, it'd be nice if they'd be honest with us because we're the taxpayers and we're paying for all this. And if Kimball and Milner go ahead and form a fire district, watch your wallet, folks. Watch your wallet because your fire taxes are going to go up. Studies say 40 to 50%. And also your fire insurance on your home and your property is going to go up because the fire district they're going to create has no ISO rating, which means that you're going to start with the worst until there's a track record developed. You know, it's just nonsense. And they're saying, well, Brockport mismanaged the money. Brockport didn't mismanage any fire protection contract money. This is a freaking contract, friends. Clarkson and Sweden pay Brockport for their fire protection. They had a contract. The contract gets negotiated and signed every year. If Clarkson and Sweden didn't like the contract, they didn't have to sign it. But they did. And they got what they paid for. And at the lowest cost of any town in Monroe County, by the way. So there's a hidden agenda here. You know, these supervisors and town councils in Sweden and Clarkson want to destroy the village. And they're taking it apart piece by piece, starting with the ambulance corps. Whoop, there goes the phone. I don't know who's calling me. I should have shut that baby off, shouldn't I? Sorry about that. Well, at any rate, I just wanted to reflect on this cockamamie article in the Suburban News. The other thing that kind of bothers me is, you know, the Suburban News under Kristen Gabalski's byline just throws this silly letter in there without any investigation, without any additional information. It's as if they have no knowledge or history of the issue. And I know Kristen Gobalski does. You know, she goes to the town meeting, she goes to the village meeting, she's pretty well informed. So why the Suburban News would be a purveyor of this public relations disingenuous junk is kind of beyond me. You know, basically they're a penny saver. They're not a real newspaper. So you can't expect too much from them. But the fact that they would print this as if it were an article and is news, you know what I'm saying? It is kind of laughable. So, at any rate, it's a sad thing here. I think we deserve better government than what we're getting. You know, I'm kind of embarrassed by Paul Kimball and Jack Milner. You know, they got rid of the Brockport Volunteer Ambulance Corps. That was a crying shame. You know, those dedicated volunteers have provided an excellent service, and they even said that their switch of the contract from Brockport Ambulance Corps to Monroe Ambulance had nothing to do with the quality of service. Well, what did it have to do with then? You know? And so the volunteers took a hit. Doug Hickerson got up at a public forum back in December of 2010 and pointed out that the Clarkson, Sweden Fire Protection District Study Committee did not recommend a change in ambulance service, but rather recommended that they continue with the Brockport ambulance service. And Milner, Connors, Myers, Cargis, and Donahue just blew them off. It's kind of sad, you know, to see that they appointed these volunteers to this committee who studied this issue in depth, who recommended that they continue with the Brockport Volunteer Ambulance Corps, and for whatever reason, the town council just ignored them and switched to Monroe Avenue, which is Monroe Ambulance, which is a profit-making company. You know, if you stuck with me so far, thanks. I don't mean to go on and proselytize, but when you see the gaslighting that's going on by Kimball and Milner, who are just twisting the facts and changing things around and don't want to stick to the facts, it's kind of sad. You know, I think Brockport trustee Scott Hunsinger hit it right when he simply said to them, listen, you know, you guys aren't playing with a full deck here. I don't want to continue with this negotiation. You got your mind already made up. You want a fire district. You're not even paying attention to the best interest of the taxpayers. You're going ahead with this one way or another, whether it's good for people or not. And, you know, the Brockport Fire Department is not for sale. It's an institution that's been in our community 130 years. We have dedicated volunteers. It's been an excellently run fire and ambulance service all this time. And for you guys to be making political hay and taking cheap shots at this is really unconscionable. And, you know, the village board, outside of Connie Constaneta and Daniel Kuhn, really don't want to be part of this. You know? So I have a lot of respect for Trustee Hunsinger and Blair and Hannon. Thank God we got them, and now we got Margie Blackman, and hopefully Milner and Kimball and these town council people will, you know, take a fair and objective approach to this and reassess what they're trying to do, because it really makes no sense. Thanks for listening. Bye.